ladies and gentlemen, I don't remember him being on a show.
No, he has not.
He's never been on a show. And very surprising because we've had a lot of Hall of Fame play-by-play guys on our show. And we are now talking to the one and only Hall of Fame play-by-play broadcaster. The one, the only, yes, the Atlanta Hawks broadcaster, Bob Rathbun. Bob, what's up, buddy?
Hey, guys. It's good to be with you. How are you all?
We're good, man. I mean, obviously, you're doing better than we are. I mean, how many sports are you broadcasting right now, being a play-by-play guy? You're doing football. You're doing basketball, college basketball. You're doing NBA basketball. You're doing WNBA basketball. Who's better than you, Bob?
It's a very short list. No, I'm just kidding. Listen, I've been doing this since I was 12 years old, and I was on the air full-time when I was 19. I would not know how to get another job, so I'm very fortunate that it all worked out.
It definitely has. I mean, you're a Hall of Famer. How many Hall of Famers are there in broadcasting? Not many of them, especially play-by-play guys. So it's pretty incredible we have one of them on the show. We've interviewed a lot of them. Speedy has gotten a lot of Hall of Famers on our show. I'm intrigued to hear what you got to say about your Atlanta Hawks because I can't stand two players on that roster right now. One of them that was just traded to your team and Kristaps Porzingis, but one that every single time he comes to Madison Square Garden, he has interesting things to say about the fans. The one and only Trae Young. Your thoughts to two guys that I can't stand.
Well, I've got to get to know Porzingis. I only know him from afar. He's played against us with about 10 different teams, so it's going to be fun to have him on the Hawks. But, of course, everybody's favorite villain is Trae Young. You love to hate because of all of his antics. But I tell you what, in the history of the NBA, there are very few people at his size who've been able to do what he has done. 3 times he's led the league in total assists. He led the league in average assists last year. And this guy's, barely 6 feet tall and weighs 180 pounds soaking wet. And for him to do that in the land of the Giants is pretty remarkable. But it is, I must say, it is a big year for Trae because he does not have an extension on his contract yet. It could happen, but I think they're going to play out the year. And they've surrounded him with a really good team. And I think it's up to Trae now to make it into a playoff team and a team that could maybe finish in the top 4 in the Eastern Conference this year. So I think he's got a lot of pressure on his shoulders.
So in your time broadcasting the Atlanta Hawks, they actually had the longest playoff streak in the NBA for a while, too, with guys like Kyle Korver, Jeff Teague, Al Horford was a younger player. What was it like broadcasting a lot of those players and a lot of the they never made the NBA Finals, but good playoff runs that they had?
They did. It was a lot of fun. I think the 60-win team that we had, what was it, 10 years ago, something like that?
Yeah, one seed, yeah.
Was so exciting because it just kind of came together. We were a 500 ball club around Thanksgiving and just caught fire all of a sudden and did something that no team in NBA history has ever done, and I doubt will ever do again, and that was to play the entire month of January and go unbeaten. It's unheard of. And this team did it. They won 19 straight games at one point, which, that's basically a quarter of your entire 82-game schedule. So it was a pretty remarkable run. And I swear, if we could have stayed healthy, and how many times have you heard that in the last 10 years?
As a Knicks fan, forever.
If we could have stayed healthy, I really think we were going to go to the finals. I don't know that we would have beaten Golden State, but I think we would have beaten Cleveland. We sort of had their number, but by the time we got to the Eastern Conference Finals, we were gassed and half the guys were banged up and we couldn't pull it off. But it was a remarkable run. It turned the city on fire. And, our sports history down here in Atlanta is not the best. We've come close with several of our teams. The Braves have broken through a couple of times. But overall, that's more heartbreak than anything else. But that was our year. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, Bob, as you, look back on your career, which, spans decades, and not many people can say that. Is there one moment where we all have that I've made it moment, and for somebody that's done it as long as you have, what was that first one where you're like, you know what, I belong here and I think I could do this for a long time?
Oh boy, that's a great question. I think probably going from my hometown, a small town in North Carolina, to go to work in Norfolk, Virginia. And it doesn't sound like that big of a leap, but when you're a young guy just starting off, and all of a sudden you're in a top 40 market, and you're on radio and TV, and you're calling football, basketball, AAA baseball. I was there at the start of the regional sports network when all that sort of came into existence in the 80s, and to do Orioles games and Bullets games and stuff like that. Now, that might not move the needle for anybody else, but it really did make me that feeling you're talking about, which is, hey, you've arrived, you've got enough talent to do this. Now it's a matter of getting better and improving and moving up the ladder. And I did from that. I went on to a career at CBS and ESPN, and we've been here in Atlanta 30 years doing the Hawks, which is an incredibly long run for anybody in any chair in broadcasting. But I look back at that. That's a great question. I never really had thought about it, but I think that move, your first big job, sort of gives you that confidence that you somebody's willing to take a chance on you, and you got a shot.
We are talking to Hall of Famer broadcaster for the Atlanta Hawks, the Atlanta Dream, and many different college football and basketball games. The one and only Bob Rathbun. Bob, I am a big, and I'll say this because I've been a big fan of Dominique Wilkins. I love his slam dunk contest with Michael Jordan. I love the back and forth banter that he had against the one and only Celtics. I mean, Dominique Wilkins was one of my favorite high-flying basketball players of my time watching basketball in the late 80s and early 90s. What was it like getting a chance to watch this guy play every single day?
Well, not only that, but I had a chance to broadcast his games when he was in high school. Mm-hmm. And he grew up in North Carolina. I grew up in North Carolina, and the team that I broadcast for ended up playing his team in the state tournament. And then when I got to Norfolk, Virginia, I was doing Old Dominion, and we played Georgia in an NIT game that Nick played in, and I got to broadcast that. And then I had a chance to broadcast him in the NBA, and he's been my partner on the Hawks TV broadcast for the last 15 years.
I was just going to mention
we have been joined at the hip for a very long time. And I'll tell you guys, with what happens today with load management and all this other nonsense that goes on, people just don't have an appreciation of, unless you're older, an appreciation of what Dominique Wilkins brought every night. He did not disappoint. I mean, he played every game. There was no load management. He was out there, and he was in an Eastern Conference with the Celtics and Bird, the Pistons, the Bulls, Milwaukee, Philadelphia, when the East was like the West is today. And he brought it every night. And I don't think people today really can appreciate just how great he was and how hard he played. It's funny. We talk about this a lot. It was a badge of honor back in the 80s and 90s in the NBA to play every game. You just didn't come out, First of all, the money wasn't that big, and you were kind of scared of losing your job in a way, but you played every night. There wasn't even a thought of taking a night off. And then today, it's a badge of honor to see how many games you can miss and still get paid.
That's the crazy thing. I'm sorry to cut you off. That's the crazy thing. And I don't like the way the NBA works anymore. And Michael Jordan said it best many, many times. And there are many documentaries I've read about Michael Jordan. He said, fans are coming to watch us play. They're going to buy our sneaker. I'm playing 82 games in a season because they're coming to see me play. I think the players don't understand. That's why
they don't.
They come to see these players play. It's not about how many games they could sit out to play in a playoff game. It's about how many people want to go get a chance to watch LeBron James play because he's only going to be in the league for a certain amount of time. How many players want to see Manu Ginobili and Tim Duncan play because there's only a certain amount of time that you're going to get a chance to see them. And some of these people over the years, when you go to see a game, because Popovich was one of those guys that really – trotted his players out and say, okay, you're sitting tonight and you're playing. You're sitting tonight and you're playing. Greg Popovich was the one that started this. I mean, I don't know if you know that. I'm sure you do know that, Bob. But he's the one that started this.
And the only reason he got away with it is because they won.
Mm-hmm.
Right. If they had not won championships, it probably would not have caught fire. But it's such a copycat league that oh well, the Spurs did it, so we'll try it. It's nonsense. Look at the dunk contest. Nick will say, if you had him on your show, he would say, "Why did you compete in all these dunk contests?" So we did it because of the fans. The stars of the game owed it to the fans to go out and perform. They didn't care who won. LeBron James has never been in a dunk contest. That's hard to believe. That would have never happened.
I've got something
in the 80s
for you,
and 90s.
Bob. I got something for you because it's not the NBA, it's the LJA, the LeBron James Association. I've said this many times on this show. Adam, and I'll say that Adam Silver over the years has been LeBron James's bitch. Okay, just speaking the truth here. LeBron James does whatever he wants, and he gets away with it. And the problem right now with the NBA really stirs because of what LeBron James has done over the last. Could you tell me a season LeBron James has ever played 82 games? Or how about this? Yeah. 80 games in a season. Could you remember?
Yeah, probably in his younger days, but certainly that's not the case now. But I do think that's changing. I think with our younger stars, I think that is changing. Well, you take a guy like Anthony Edwards, an Atlanta native, just getting a plug in for the hometown kid. But, Ant-Man wants to play, wants to compete, giving it his all every night, doesn't take any nights off. Victor Wembanyama, when he's healthy, I think he's going to be a guy that's going to play every night and not come out of games. I think that's changing, and I do think it's changing for the better.
So I want to shift gears to something earlier in your broadcasting career. In 1987, you did Arena Bowl 87 with Lee Corso, who's one of my favorite,
yes.
one of my favorite college football guys. What was he like then, and is he like any different from what he is now? And
he's the best. Oh my God, he's the best. When he was coaching Indiana, I don't know if you guys know this story, but they had a game at Ohio State, and at the Horseshoe, and Indiana somehow scores on their first possession. Like they win the opening coin, and they get the ball, and they go down the field and score. And Corso takes the entire team out onto the field, gets the team photographer out there, and they take a picture of the entire Indiana football team with the scoreboard in the background, Indiana 7, Ohio State nothing. And court penalty flags are, there's 100 flags on the field. Woody Hayes is losing his mind. But that was Lee Corso, and that's the same guy that you saw those years on ESPN. Funny as all get out. He was terrific. We had so much fun in the summer of 87 doing arena football.
I want to talk about the Braves
Yes.
tenure that you had, because being a kid from Nebraska, we got the Braves every day. So I grew up a Braves fan for TBS, so appreciate that. So a lot of days hearing you and all that stuff on Fox Sports. Like that team in the 15 pennants, but then only winning once. Like to call a team with such great talent and all the time and to come up short, like being there and seeing it every day, was it just as frustrating for you as it was for me as a Braves fan growing up?
Yeah, it was, probably in the early to mid 90s when they were at their absolute best. I think down here they feel like the 96 was the one that really got away.
Yep.
To be up 2-0, to win both games at Yankee Stadium and come home and not be able to put it away. The Leyritz 1-0 game, was just a dagger down here. But when you got into the later years of that run, they really weren't the best team. I mean, they were beat up in 99 when they lost. And, it was just, they were great. The NL East was not that competitive. So they were able to dominate the division. But I thought the early 90s, when they finally got it going, the Minnesota series, in 91, they should have won that one probably. They broke through in 95, should have won in 96. So if they'd have won those three, I think we'd have a much, much different opinion about that Braves dynasty.
We are talking to Hall of Famer play-by-play broadcaster Bob Rathbun. And by the way, this guy's a legend when it comes to broadcasting the Atlanta Hawks. Atlanta Dream right now, WNBA, and both college football and college basketball. He's done it all, ladies and gentlemen, for decades. You know, you look at the NBA and the state of the NBA right now. We're going into a new season. A lot of questions on right now who is going to be the dominant force in the West and a dominant force in the East. First with the East. The Eastern Conference, obviously, over there in Boston. No Tatum this year. He's out for the season. A lot of moves that Boston has made, so they might fall out of the top two. Could you see the Knicks being the number one seed right now in the Eastern Conference? And as far as the West is concerned, who do you think? Is it Houston after the move they made with Kevin Durant? Is there another team that you see right now, young team, that could surprise everybody out of the Western Conference, not just the OKC Thunder?
Oh, other than OKC?
Yes.
Well, I think for sure the Rockets are a team that, you know, they learned the hard way last year, right? I mean, they got a big dose of reality in the playoffs. So I think that will serve them well. They're still a fairly young team. Obviously, they add KD, but, that's still a bunch that's learning how to win. Major trades, so a reconfigured team. But I think Houston is going to be pretty good. The thing I love the most about it, it's wide open. I just think this is the best thing that's happened in the NBA in years. I mean, come on. Cleveland and Golden State in the finals 4 straight years. I mean, Dullsville. Now, everybody's got a chance. And I think everybody's fan base is energized. There's only a handful of teams that are going to be, really bottom feeders, Utah, Washington, Brooklyn, people like that. But from the middle of the top, I think it's great. I think anybody can make a move, and that just invigorates a fan base, and it really caps interest in the full 82, because that's something I think that's been lacking for NBA fans, that, a Tuesday night in January, well, you got a chance now to see a really competitive game. So I'm all for parity. I think it's fantastic. Of course, that's, the voice of the Atlanta Hawks speaking. I'm all for knocking the big boys off and everybody having a chance. But I do think that's kind of where we are in the East. You got 3 major injuries with Halliburton going down and Dame Lillard going down, Tatum going down. That makes a big change at the top of the East. I don't think anybody in the East is scared of anybody else, and that's going to make it great.
It's so interesting because LeBron James has been really the talk of the NBA over the last, I would say, 2 weeks. And Luka Doncic just got a big contract. He was the only one of his teammates not at that conference call. And then all of a sudden, he sends congratulations to Luka Doncic on Twitter, on X, and that's all. Does LeBron James at the trade deadline play for another team? Do you see him staying with the Lakers, especially when the Lakers look like they're going to start to rebuild around Luka Doncic?
Well, the sun is starting to set on his career. I mean, he's still, give him his due, for 40 years old, he's still getting it done like few players in our league can get it done. But he's on the downhill slide. There's no question about that. And I think the biggest question is not so much his stats or winning and stuff like that. It's his ego. Can he handle being the second banana to Luka? I don't know. We're going to find out. But the thing about him leaving the Lakers, that means he also has to leave his son. And I don't know that is going to happen. He may ride it out to get Bronny through. But, the end is coming. And it's the first time, really, since he's got established in the early days in Cleveland, that he is not the face of this league. He's not the most dominant player in this league anymore. And I don't know that he can handle that. That's going to be very interesting to see.
So my last question, I know you spent some time with the Washington Bullets. One of the friends of our show is Charlie Slow, who's the play-by-play voice of the Washington Nationals. Have you had any experiences with him?
Oh, yeah. And back to Virginia. When Charlie was coming along, he did the team that I did, the Tidewater Tides, then a Mets AAA affiliate. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, we've known Charlie for years. What a fine young man and great broadcaster.
I mean, I'm going to end this with this from my last one. How much longer do you want to do this?
I think often of a quote from Don Shula, the Hall of Fame football coach. And he once said, "The closer I get to the stadium, the faster I walk." And I still feel that way, guys. I love the games. Um, I still get excited about preparing. We get the schedule tomorrow. It's like I'm like a kid on Christmas Eve tonight. I can't wait to get my hands on the schedule tomorrow, see where we're going, where the travels will take us. And I'm just a kid in that regard, so I still love it. I think the big thing for me is I still got my health, enthusiasm to do it every day. And I love the players. And we're 50 years apart, 40 years apart. And, they have my back. I've got their back. I love them. And I love traveling with them and being with them. It's just so great. And I hope that, the Hawks and the NBA will allow me to continue to do it because I absolutely love it. I love our fans. We have such great interaction with them. I'm sitting next to a Hall of Famer every night in Dominique Wilkins, having a blast. So I hope I get the chance to do it for a long time to come.
Well, I'm cool with Charlie Slows, and he's another guy. He's a broadcaster that's worked for many different leagues, from the NBA down to the MLBs, the Nationals, radio broadcaster, voice of the Washington Nationals. And I asked him, when is it going to be over for you? And we're very close, and we have these conversations all the time. And he says, well, as long as I'm getting a paycheck week by week, I'm going to be here. So I do believe that is the way Charlie, and I would not want to hear anybody else but you, Bob, for what you do, not only for the Atlanta Hawks, but you have really been one of the voices of NBA basketball. I really do appreciate the time, not only as a personality on what you do for the radio and television, but who you are as a person, and a person that I look up to. So thank you for joining us. And I definitely, off air, would love to have a conversation with you. You're a person that I would love to pick your brain with. You're a sensational human being. And I just can only imagine your wife all these years getting a chance to hear you and your kids getting a chance to see what you have done as a professional. It's an amazing, amazing career as a broadcaster. Thank you so much, man.
Well, that really is kind of you to say that, and I appreciate that. We do it all for the fans, and yes, reach out to me anytime. Love to chat. I'm pretty easy to find, so you can email, text, whatever. Love the interaction, and love to spend time with you.
Absolutely. He's been fantastic. Thank you, Bob. We'll definitely talk to you soon, man. I'll definitely reach out to you. Congratulations on the great career that you've had, and many more years to go. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Great being with you. Thank you.